Okay, welcome back to the FSBC Library Author Interviews, and we are talking to HaniTrash, who is amazing. I'll just put that out there from the start. And we got Sarah on board as well. And hey, welcome. Thank you so much for joining.
Hello. Thank you for inviting me.
So just to kick it off, this question I ask everybody: when did you start writing?
Okay, so I guess technically you could say I started writing when I was like in kindergarten, because I have found like these like books that our teachers would make for us of stories that we would write down. And I went back and looked at some of these stories a few years ago, and I'm like, I made this all up. Like, none of this is true. And it says it's a true story. And I made all of this up. So I'm going to say I started when I was a kid. In high school, I wrote absolutely atrocious X-Men fic based off of the comics from the early 90s. Thank God I did not know about Live Journal or anything like that at the time, because I didn't subject anyone else in the world to it.
So that was essentially your welcome to fan fiction was.
Oh, it was X-Men fanfic. Yes, Gambit Rogue all the way. It was just so bad. And then a few years back, my friend got me into the Hannibal TV show, which is where my username comes from, for Hanny for Hannibal.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense.
We know now.
Yes, everyone always wants to know, like, what does your username mean? I'm like, it's Hannibal Trash, because I was trash for Hannibal. She got me into the Hannibal TV show like long after it had finished airing and everything. And I was like, oh my God, these guys are so gay. And the beautiful thing is that Brian Fuller, who is the showrunner for Hannibal, could basically confirmed that, if it were to continue, there would definitely be some sort of relationship, even if it wasn't sexual. And
that's actually on record.
Yes, it is. And people people on Twitter would drag him all the time about it. And he's just, it's hilarious because he just laughs at them. And someone asked one time who tops, and Brian literally responded, they switch. And I love Brian. He's amazing.
That's brilliant. The world needs more people like that.
Oh, he's wonderful. I love him so much. So my first fanfic that ever got posted anywhere was for Hannibal. It was a gift for my friend who got me into the fandom. It was her Christmas present. What better present to say than, here, have some porn that I wrote specifically for you.
Everybody needs friends like that. Honestly, everybody needs friends.
I mean, seriously, why not? And then she was also into, she still is into John Locke, and she was into Stucky and HTP, which of course HaniTrash, which is people who subscribe to the belief that while Bucky was in Hydra's possession, they did a lot of just unspeakable things to him. And knowing how military captivity can go, I kind of agree with that. Whether or not it's ever addressed, but so she was into those things, and she's like, listen, she goes, you like Hannibal, you would like this. And my first introduction really into Stucky was through HTP, which says probably a lot about me.
That's a hell of an introduction.
I was gonna say, yeah, that is a hell of an introduction. It's probably not the most common introduction. Most people find Stucky and then find the HTP side of it.
Yeah. Whereas... No. We went right in. I jumped right into that dumpster feet first. So
you're like a hardcore OG.
So okay. I went into, well, I mean, I came into it really late. It's been, going for years, but, and then I started reading other Stucky stuff and whatnot and all of that. But, yeah, so then my first Stucky fic, which I look at it and I want to just go back and edit it, because I'm like, the tense jumps and everything else. And then I'm just like, it just needs editing. I wouldn't change the story. I just want to edit it. References HTP and everything and stuff like that. It's my very first lucky pick. And it's like, but it's so trope filled and it's so just awful. But like, I leave it up there because it was my first lucky pick. So that was, I think, 2019 when I did Hannibal, and then I did a few Hannibal stories, and then I switched over to Stucky. And I know if I watched Hannibal again right now, I would end up writing more Hannibal. So while I have bang commitments, I refrain from watching more Hannibal because I do have other ideas for Hannibal stories. So
So that fic you're talking about, the first one published, according to, because you know I've got the whole
yes, of course,
open on other screens. Is that the Love and Regrets one you're talking about, or is it hidden somewhere else that I can't find?
No, Love and Regrets. That's the first lucky pick I wrote. Yeah,
I have read that.
Yeah, it's just well, because people will leave comments or whatever, and then like I'll go and look at like what the hell happened in this chapter because I wrote it so long ago, and then I look at it and I'm like, oh God, this is terrible. I need to edit this. Why did my friend let me post this? Because my friend who got me into all of this, she's an English professor. And I'm like, you read this. How did you not fix all these grammar issues? And I'm like, why did you do this to me? But
that's insane.
Yeah, well, everybody has to start somewhere.
Yeah,
so that like kind of has some nice nostalgia for you.
Yeah. So I mean, I'd like to think my writing has gotten a lot better since then. I did start out writing. So the writing question actually is twofold though, because I started writing fanfic. But if you talk about writing, I do have some stuff published under a pen name for regular romance, and gay romance as well. And I actually had 4 or 5 books published before I started writing fanfic.
Oh wow!
So I came into fanfic the other way around. So
that's really neat because usually it's like the opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard so many. I've heard so many stories of people who have got heaps of fanfic stories, and then next thing they disappear because they've been grabbed by a publisher and whatever. So the fact that you've done everything back to front.
I did it backwards. Yeah.
I kind of love you for that. Seriously, you've done it so far out of whack. It's not funny, and I reckon it's brilliant.
But that's something that makes you unique, I think.
Yeah. And I have actually published, so there is one story that I have out there that is, and my friend that got me into all this, she just, every time she would read a draft of it, she just would start laughing. So she would call me up, she's like, I cannot believe that you actually got this published. Because it is such a thinly veiled fanfic, it's not even funny. Like, I mean, the main characters they look like a bearded Chris Evans and a twink Bucky, or twink Seb, I should say. And it's the, it's a total, billionaire AU type of thing. And like when they first meet, and they meet in a bar and have a one night stand, and then Bucky goes to his new job, and it turns out that Steve is the owner of the company and stuff. I mean, it's just all these, it's hilarious. It's like, it's such a fanfic. It's not even funny.
That's
like,
so juicy.
Even like side characters' names, like there's like a Sam in there, there's a Margaret in there, I mean, it's like, it can't be any more. I think there's a Clint. When Bucky first meets Steve, and I mean, I say Bucky and Steve because it's the characters basically.
That's who we're really talking about.
When he first meets him in the bar, he refers to him as the guy with the body proportions of a Dorito. I'm like, it can't be any more of a thinly veiled fanfic. It's hilarious.
Honestly, if it makes you feel any better, Oscar Wilde basically wrote self-insertion fan fiction. So if that makes you feel any way better at all,
absolutely hilarious. So yeah, so I published this story. This was a few years back. Like, they had a call. My publisher had a call for submissions for an anthology, and it was for a billionaire, $1 billion love type of thing, and I ripped out this 20,000 word story in about 2 weeks because I had this idea and I was like, this is a total fanfic, and I just ran with it. And obviously changed the characters' names. They're not called Steve and Bucky. But yeah, it's crazy. I ripped out those 20,000 words in about 2 weeks or so. And that included the 2 weeks where my oldest kid started school, my youngest kid started preschool. Both of them had doctor's appointments. I had work. There was parent meetings for the schools and everything. And at the time I was the treasurer for the preschool. It's all volunteer run except for the teacher who gets paid. So like, I mean, it was just in the middle of all of this, and I got editors picked for the anthology because they said it was such a great story. I was like, it was hilarious. I was like, oh my God, this is total fanfic.
Did you sleep at all? Like seriously, through this 2 weeks, did you manage to sleep at all?
I'm not entirely sure, honestly. Like
it was a whirlwind.
It really was.
Oh my Lord, that's brilliant.
Maybe you were like having a delusion the whole time, and maybe you imagine you were sleeping, and
it was crazy.
That got you through.
It was absolutely crazy. But I'm like, and my friend just laughed. She's like, this is hilarious. Like there's so many Easter eggs in there that are just like, if you know type of thing. And it's like, if you read any Stucky and find this story, you'll be like, oh my God, this is hilarious.
Oh, this is brilliant.
I read a lot of like male romance, like outside of, Stucky and everything. Right. So if I ever come across this, I'll probably know.
Oh, you'll definitely know.
And it will make me happy.
So I have found, because I'm an avid reader. Like I'm addicted to reading. Like that is my thing, and I have been since I was a kid. And some of the stuff that I've read, like I'm a sucker for, basically they're like the free downloads with the iBooks and stuff like that. And, the smut romances and stuff, or they're 99 cents or 50 cents or whatever. And there are so many of those that I've read that I'm like, I'm sure I know this story. I'm sure I know these characters from somewhere. There are no names or anything that would think, but I'm starting to think that maybe a lot of people do that.
I think you're on to something.
Total. Like it was hilarious. So yeah, it was so funny though. I was just like, I don't even know what possessed me with that one, but I was like, that story just like came out of nowhere, and I was like, I ran with it.
it grabbed you and did not let go.
Pretty much.
So one of the stories you've got on AO3 is called Love Me Mercilessly, and yes. I saw it when you posted it because it was just after I subscribed to you, I'm pretty sure. And the first thing I'm like, this is a reposting because it was meant to be published, but they wanted, too many changes. What changes do they want? Because that's a pretty self-contained story. Like,
so what the nice thing about fanfic is, even when it's a total AU like that one is, there's a lot of world building and just pre-existing ideas and understandings that you don't have to do any of the work for yourself.
Exactly.
So when I did the editing to submit it to my publisher, and I pulled it down, and I changed names, of course, and I had to change like the Stark Expo to be just like a military defense expo and stuff like that and everything. And they did like it, but they wanted I would have had to do a lot more work, like the way the pacing goes on this and the time jumps and whatnot. Like, I would have had to add a lot to it to make it work, and I felt like that took away from the way the relationship develops between them. And then I can understand why they wanted it, because in fanfic it works perfectly fine. It makes sense. You get it. You understand where this is all going.
You don't need to put those other elements in there because it's already that base understanding behind it.
Right. And it's not that I don't enjoy doing all the world building and stuff. I mean, obviously, I've got published books that I did before I started with the fanfic. So it was just a matter of like, there was so many changes that they wanted me to make that, and I understood why. But then as I was looking at it, I'm like, I don't see how to add to this without like it being more the fanfic world. Like I was trying to figure out ways to do it, and I'm like, I just didn't. I had it down for quite a while. And then I was just like, you know what? I'm like, I don't, there's just too much work that they want me to do to this. And I don't like how much it's going to change it. So I just put it back up on AO3 the way it was when I took it down.
So you didn't keep any of the changes or anything they wanted you to make? Like you just literally reposted what was already there? Or did you edit some?
Yeah, it's exactly how it was when I took it down is what went back up. So I didn't make any changes to it when I reposted it. I just left it the way it was.
Because just putting it out there, that's one of my favorites of yours. Like I was hooked by the end of like the first paragraph. I'm like, this is brilliant. This is amazing. Like, and I love it when fics grab me like that. And
yeah,
with how many I've read, like I think my bookmark list is now up to the 400 mark. So everything that's in the library is I've got bookmarks, so I remember what's been added, and that's the only way I can tell whether I've been there or not. And only I think it's probably about 10 fics out of all of the ones that I've read that have grabbed me so strongly at the start. So
right. Yeah,
that's one of my favorites of yours, and it's one of my favorites overall.
Right. And that's kind of why I felt like it would just change it too much and that I wouldn't like the end result and that I wouldn't be happy with publishing it because it wouldn't be the same story that I had originally come up with. So that's why I decided not to do the revisions and resubmit to them, and I just put it back up on AO3. I have another one. That
within the last week.
You read like most of my catalog in the last week. I did.
I love it. I did. And I regret nothing.
I mean, listen, I love it. I love all the comments and then I have spammed you completely DMs with comments. Yes, and then next thing I know, I'm getting Tumblr DMs from this lady, and I'm just like, okay, cool, this is great. I love it. Well, that's how I met Becca. She just appeared in my Tumblr DMs one day, and I'm like, okay, cool. And I'm talking because nobody ever contacts me on Tumblr. Like, I know I'm not super active on Tumblr though, so I get it. So Becca came into my DMs one day on Tumblr, and now like we talk every single day on Discord, and we've written stories together and everything and stuff like that. And it's just, it's great. I love it. I love fandom.
I love how things happen. It's like so serendipitous. Like just like, with the start of like our book club, it like literally happened like a Facebook post. I was posting about a cowboy fic that I had read because that is like one of my favorite like genres is like Western. And I was like, I said something, I forget exactly what it was. I could probably find it. It's silly. And in the comments, I said, well, why don't we start a book club? Would anybody be interested in that? And basically the first like 7 people that commented were in.
There was like 10 people who said, yes, I want in on this. And then exactly. I think there was 7 who actually followed through. Sure I was the last one in there. Just putting that out there. I was the last one. I'm like, oh my God, is this too late? Because I found this whole post like
you got in under the wire.
I feel like I'm probably in that same Facebook group as you guys, but I'm like hardly ever active in there. But I've seen posts in that Facebook group with the library logo and stuff.
So you are in there.
So
that's
I'm
awesome.
pretty sure we're in the same Facebook group. I'm not really active in there.
I post the library stuff to 3 groups. So the library page gets then shared into Stucky Love, Stucky fans, and Marvel fan fiction writers.
It's one of the Stucky ones.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure Stucky Love is the biggest one, or it's the biggest one that I'm a member of. And even that was like, this all happened like within 3 months of me even joining this group. So I'm like, well, I'm interested in this sort of stuff. So someone else has to be, and searched it and went, oh, wow, okay, this is interesting.
Yeah.
It's like really crazy how large this fandom is. It's just so like, I've been part of other fandoms before. Like this wasn't my first one, and this wasn't even my first herring in the MCU. I like stumbled across this. I don't even know how I did. And then I was like, wait, like this makes so much sense. Like I was just with it right when I read my first fic. I don't even know which one it was.
And that's kind of what happened with me when my friend who, showed me, because I had seen I mean, I wrote X-Men fanfic. Like, I mean, I love comic books. I love superheroes, so like I had seen all the movies that had been out to that point. And my friend was like, how do you not see this? And I'm like, well, wait, what do you mean? She's like, dude, watch it again. And I was like, oh my God, they're so gay. And
it's so obvious in hindsight.
As soon as someone pointed out to me, I was like, oh God, yes. And I'm like, sign me up. Give me all the fic, sign me up. So
what sealed it for me was the bar scene. Like I counted like how many seconds like Steve looked at Bucky. I'm like, this is the most lingering, smoldering glance I have ever seen. Like
between that and honestly the helicarrier scene, like,
oh my gosh,
forget it. Sebastian Stan, I just love that man so much, and the way he can tell a story with just his face and his eyes, and like he doesn't even have to speak, and like you can see so much emotion and whatnot. And yeah, the helicarrier scene was definitely the like, yep, that's it.
so hot.
There's a thing about it's a meme that comes up every now and then. It's like, supporting characters who say barely anything and yet win the entire movie. And it's like, yep. Bucky Barnes,
Sebastian Stan.
Yeah. And then there's the other one that floats around, and I think this is absolutely brilliant. And it's got Tangled. How they've got
the magic hair and
well, there's the poster's got Flynn Rider and Maximus the horse, right, standing next to each other, and it's like, these are the Sam and Bucky of the Disney world. And it's like,
that's
obviously
so
that makes
true.
Steve Rapunzel.
That's hilarious.
And I commented that on one of those posts, right, and someone got so cranky with me saying, but the horse is white. I'm like, what's that got to do with anything? That's all they took from it, was that the horse was white, so therefore I was wrong. I'm like, no.
Anyway,
people are odd. So
people will latch on to anything and pick at it if they focus on something and just go from there. But
they focus on something so completely has nothing to do with what you've been talking about, that it's just I struggle to find a connection sometimes.
And it's funny because sometimes I'll get I'll get comments on fics, and it's funny because people will be like, well, aren't you worried? Like when I was writing my Shrunky Clunk Spang fic from last year, which has the incredibly long title on it, that When Hatred with Its Package Comes, that one.
Yes.
So I listened to so much Leonard Cohen while I was writing that story. And that's where that title comes from, is from one of his songs. And there was some concern about the huge age gap and a lot of the different issues that are tackled in that story. And someone was like, why are you worried about comments? I'm like, dude, I started out in the Hannibal fandom. I'm not scared what anybody has to say to me, because they're not going to faze me. And and I joke about it, but it's kind of true. I'm like, the Hannibal fandom's motto is eat the rude. So it's like, it doesn't really faze me when someone starts giving me crap on a fic, and some people will get all mad and outraged, and I'm just like, I'll just respond to them like, no, you're wrong, and move on and whatever. But it's just I don't let it get to me. And I don't know if part of that is because I was published before I started doing fanfic, and I know I'm a good writer. Because I don't have an agent or anything. I just blindly submitted a manuscript to a publishing company, and got accepted. Like I'm not, I'm not agented, I'm not promoted, I'm not, I'm just out there. But the one thing I know I've always enjoyed doing is writing. And as one thing that I know I am good at is telling a story. And so I mean, and I don't know if it's, just because this is my thing and I know I'm good at it or what, but I'm just like, I don't let negative comments get to me. I don't know. Maybe because I have other things to worry about too. I don't know. I just have other things to do.
I'm also very much of the belief though that if your story is tagged correctly,
and
no one should be upset with what they're reading because they've got all the warnings in front of them. Like,
and that's the thing. And it's funny, I actually got better at tagging when I started doing HTP stuff, because HTP authors are very careful about their tagging because they know they're writing, things that can be very upsetting and triggering to people or whatever, and squicks and whatnot. And I know this, and I feel like I got a lot better with tagging once I started, writing more of like HTP type of stuff. But I'm just like, and the other thing too is I'm like, if you have nothing better to do with your day than to yell at somebody on the internet that you don't know, who did something for free to entertain you, and there's a little X button at the top of your screen or a little back arrow.
Yeah.
I'm like,
that's on them.
I feel bad. I almost feel bad for people who leave mean comments like that and who start dragging people like, on Tumblr or Twitter or whatever. I don't even go on Twitter because Twitter is just a whole nother issue entirely. Twitter is its own world, and I stay away from Twitter.
Twitter is terrifying. It
is. It really is.
I had hate mail for 3 weeks after an issue on Twitter. So
yeah, and exactly. So you know what I'm saying. It's like, so I'm like, if you have nothing better to do with your time and energy than to fight with strangers on the internet, then I feel bad for those people that they have nothing else to do with their lives. Me, I've got kids, I've got a job, I've got a husband and a house to take care of. I'm like, I got other things to do besides argue with you. And I'm like, and I just let it go. I just let it roll off my back because I have other things to use my energy on.
Okay. Maybe I've just scrolled through another page of your AO3, right? And I have a bone to pick with you. I'm very cranky with you. It is your fault that I am now on TikTok.
Listen, I don't know what to tell you about that. Okay. I don't have a TikTok account. I literally only follow him on TikTok. I don't have it on my phone or anything. I just go it online. Even my husband even agrees that like he's total like angry small Steve vibes.
It is. It's uncanny.
But when I saw that, and it's funny because I didn't used to really be into shrinky clinks as much. I mean, I started out very much as a mostly Bottom Bucky fan, and now I write both interchangeably, and I might have more Bottom Steve than I have Bottom Bucky right now even. So it's just like I saw that and I was like, I can absolutely see how this would go. And it was an idea that I'd had for months before I even got around to writing it, because I was doing other stuff. I had, bangs and whatnot that I was doing. And then Call Me Kay was running a Shrinky Clinks Fest, which just like a quick little fun, here's prompts, from people, write a little short story for it or whatever. And someone literally put in a prompt of Steve as a B. Dylan Hollis type of person. I'm like, okay, I have to write this now. And I'm like, I'm like, nope, I'm doing it now. There's no way I can't. And yeah, I loved it. And I wrote it and I had so much fun writing that story. And then Co badgered me into a sequel, and there might even be there's probably going to be a third at this point now, because Co is a force unto her own and you can't really resist Co.
Oh my God. Okay. That is okay. That in itself is enough for me to forgive you for the TikTok thing. Honestly, if there's a third part coming, you're completely forgiven. But although one thing I do find, which is, it's really interesting, most people who, like, you know, I read one of their fics and I go back and I read whatever else they've got on there, they're usually very strict with their pairings. Like, if they're Stucky fans, they will only pair Steve and Bucky. But you've got other ones in there as well. Like, you've got a Steve and Thor, you've got a three-way one, which is
Thunder
part of the
Shield.
Ember
I love
series.
my Thunder Shield. So the thing with Thunder Shield is they're so sweet. Like, there's these two big beefy himbos who just love each other and they're so sweet with each other. And I just it's like a comfort pairing almost, because there's no trauma to deal with unless you bring it in, but there's also like a level of understanding there between each other, as far as, like, you know, just the way I look at it is, like, you know, because Thor didn't know Steve and he doesn't have any preconceptions about Steve as Captain America. He just knows him as, you know, when he met him when he joined the Avengers and whatnot. And, you know, Steve doesn't feel like, I feel like Steve doesn't have to pretend when he's with him that, you know, he's not who he is or whatever. I just feel like Thor can kind of see into Steve more than some of the others do. I don't know. I just love it. It's like, to me, it's just like a nice, they're like fluffy Labradors with each other. I don't know. I just love it. They're so sweet. That's my comfort. I do have a really long Thunder Shield fic planned for the Marvel Arranged Marriage Bang, which is going to start at the end of this year. August it starts.
I've heard so much about it already, and I'm already like, hurry up and start now, people, because
listen, I have 3 other bang fics I have to post before that can even start writing that one. I'm doing 3 concurrent bangs. It's awful. I'm crazy. But yeah, so
rightio. We're nearly out of time. I really don't want to finish this chat. Do you want to come back for a part 2, or?
Yeah, we can do that. I can keep going.
You're happy to keep going?
My kids are entertaining themselves. They got tablets and toys. They're good. They've been fed.
Awesome.
Kids
I mean, we can
resilient.
always come back and do another one another day. But I haven't even gotten to half the questions I want to ask yet. So
I know. I told you I would talk for hours.
Oh, this is and trust me, you're on with 2 other people who could talk forever and ever as well about this stuff. So
I still have a bone to pick.
Yeah, we can get to that one
as well.
Yeah, we can get to that one.
Can we get through that in 6 minutes, or should we start with that?
No, that's not a 6-minute conversation. I know what she wants to yell at me for. It's what she yelled at me for in my Tumblr DMs. I sent you the picture of that, Miss Librarian. I showed you what she yelled at me for.
She has literally taken me out of my comfort zone and pushed my boundaries, which is neat, because
that's all part of that,
and that's what a good story does.
That's all part of the questions that are still to come.
Yeah, that's what a good story should do.
It's so bizarre because, like, with other pairings, like previously in other fandoms, like I have read the most horrific like things that you could imagine, and I
tell me you're a Dusty L fan.
Like the visceral reaction that I do with this pairing. I don't know what it is. I think a lot about it, but I don't know. I guess my tolerance when it's not Steve and Bucky is a lot higher, which says something about them, I guess, as a couple, but that's I could talk about that forever, but
Oh, good. So we can also talk about Steve and Scott too. My Steve and Scott. I don't even know what that ship is called. I don't know if there is a name for Steve Rogers and Scott Lang, and I didn't know. There has to be. I didn't know I was capable of writing a kid fic, because I was always very anti-kid fic. Because I have kids of my own. I don't want to read about them in my fanfic.
Exactly.
But then I saw the art prompt for that which is the collage that's in the fic, that's embedded in the beginning of the fic. And I got this idea in my head and it would not let go. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to actually write this. But it was so much fun because I love writing Scott. He is so much fun to write. And yeah, I mean, apparently if I'm given the right motivation, I can ship. I mean, I also ship Winter Devil, which is Bucky and Matt Murdock, Daredevil.
Oh,
Yes,
I've
Winter
never-
That's
Devil.
kind of neat.
actually,
One of
now
my
you've
friends,
said
like-
that. Now you've said
I
that. I
have
can
a-
see elements of that in Embers.
I have a friend who writes some amazing Daredevil fanfic, and we can talk about that too.
Rightio.
We could talk-
We're gonna
We could talk
we're gonna
for
call
hours.
it. We're gonna call it on part 1.
Okay.
And we will be back with part 2.
Okay.